We've just talked about medicine and, the good part of the drugs, right? Prescription drugs and the rest. But we're talking about the bad part of it and what is being done to fight drug abuse, proliferation of harmful drugs in the country. Jeffrey, you have this one.
Okay, I think you were taking on. Okay, from the good drugs, from the good drugs, as we said, so the bad one that people like our guests are chasing every other day to make sure that they sanitize the system. Mr. Femi Babafemi, spokesperson of the National Drug Law Enforcement Agency, NDLEA, is standing by via Zoom from Abuja to speak to us. Mr. Babafemi, thank you so much for coming on the program.
Thank you. Good morning. It's always my pleasure coming here.
So, Mr. Babafemi, we've talked about the good ones. Let's now talk about the ones you don't want to see and you've been chasing, as I said, from the very start. Maybe you begin to walk us through some of the successes you've recorded. And I just remember something before you came on to, I know the General Marwa had mentioned at some point before the election that politicians or people vying for political office should be subjected to drug tests. So be sure that we have people that have correct sense coming into managing our Commonwealth. How has that fared?
Well, absolutely. I'd like to say that was indeed an advocacy move, and which has been going on. That has been going on since 2021, that I can recall, and quite a number of state governments. Some of the state governments are already also going with this. That is, making this a policy in their states to ensure that whoever goes for an elective position or whoever is appointed into the state government is, undergoes a drug test, and that's going around because, like I said, it's an advocacy move. It's not a law. So all we can do is to encourage the various stakeholders to buy into this, and then that is going on not only at the level of politics or at the level of those seeking for employment, but then also at the level of our young ones, those going into tertiary institutions, so that they can also undergo this. And we're also glad that indeed this is going around the country, going around quite a lot of institutions. We have also seen these institutions, both private and public, also making this a policy. All of this is to drive down the demand for substances, illicit substances, by our young people, and in other areas, those prospective couples. Also, this we're also pushing, and we're seeing quite a number. A number of some of our religious institutions and traditional institutions also buying into this and implementing this.
All right, Mr. Femi. We're going to come in a moment to some of the big seizures you've made, but allow me to stay on this particular issue. It's worrying or concerning and almost unbelievable to feel that with all the successes you recorded as an agency, because we follow your story literally every Sunday, you report these things and we see the numbers, quite impressive numbers, and as far as this leadership of the NDLEA is concerned, how come we haven't seen any politicians? Is it that politicians don't do drugs in Nigeria?
Maybe you are looking at a different direction, but indeed, quite a number of people. As at in the last 4 years, I can tell you that from our records, we've had about 65 barons, including former public office holders who had been arrested and prosecuted and have been convicted. That I can tell you without necessarily mentioning anybody's name to stigmatize them, but that indeed, right there in Lagos, I can mention at least some people that have been prosecuted, some people that had held offices, maybe at the level of the local government chairmanship position or something like that. But then I'm sure it's something you can recall. And even as we speak, we still have quite a number of high-profile persons who are undergoing prosecution at the moment. So it may be a case of what you are looking for as against what the reality is. That is, but then the law does not respect anybody. As long as we have information, we have evidence on you, we'll definitely move in and do the needful.
All right. I want you to explain to us the scale of the level of drug trafficking that we're dealing with in Nigeria. Because when we see these numbers, Sometimes we just get, well, oh, NDLEA has seized, NDLEA has done this every other day. What is the scale of the industry we're dealing with? Because I remember that Festus Keyamo, the Honorable Minister for Aviation and Aerospace Development, had mentioned that private aircraft are used for both money laundering and even drug trafficking. What is the scale and what's the agency doing to scale it down?
Well, first, we're driving the enforcement aspect of our responsibilities, that the drug supply reduction, and that's why you see the agency making huge seizures and arrests at various border points, either at the airport, at the seaport, or even the land borders. And that's why you see, because the NDLEA has really metamorphosed into a world-class institution. With all our operations intelligence-led. So we have we work with quite a lot of our international partners, share intelligence, and even conduct joint operations, including our local stakeholders as well. So indeed, I'll tell you that in the last 4 years, I can recall, we've had more than 57,000 arrests. These are human beings, not chickens, not insects, so that's huge. And then beyond that, again, when you talk of seizures, we've had more than almost 10 million kilograms of assorted illicit drugs seized across all of these layers that we're referring to, meaning that just imagine a fraction of that of that figure had escaped into our communities, into our country, what impact that will have on our security and on the public health. So we have, with all of these things, we're working to ensure that we scale them down, and that's why we're making huge arrests and seizures every day across the country. And that goes also to show that apart from the supply reduction, we're also working very well on the demand reduction, because again, if there is no demand, there won't be supply. So that's why we're also ensuring that through our War Against Drug Abuse Social Advocacy Initiative, mobilizing everybody to buy in and take ownership of the fight against substance abuse. We're raising awareness across all levels, across the country, whether to the schools.
Yeah, sorry, Mr. Femi, I just wanted to, as we begin to wind down, what do you do with the seized drugs?
They are all destroyed, publicly destroyed. I mean, these are things that are done in the public glare. We invite the media houses, we invite traditional rulers, we invite civil society organizations, including our international partners, to witness these things, and they are done publicly. They are actually destroyed based on the court order. When the agency seizes these drugs, we go through the legal processes, get the right court orders, and then we gather them together in a remote location and set fire on them. And that's why you've seen the chairman, you would have heard the chairman of the agency, Jeremiah, often say that they go up in flames, meaning that we don't do any other thing with them other than to set them up, set them ablaze, so that the people who have lost them will see them, that their investments are going to have been converted into smoke.
All right. In other words, people have they have said sometimes NDLEA officials find a way to get these things back on the market, major accusations. So that's just to speak directly.
That's absolutely possible.
Yeah, that's absolutely just to speak directly to that. But quickly, as we wind down, how is it that someone ingests wraps of cocaine? Just a recent one you released, dozens of wraps. Do you do maybe psych eval for them afterwards, just to understand? Because even to swallow one full eba is tough. But someone...
Not to talk of 8100 and 100...
Sometimes it's unbelievable, Mr. Babafemi. So when you ask them, what do they speak to? We're totally out of time, but I just wanted you to answer that.
Yeah, some of these things, they are driven by greed and desperation to make money at all costs. And so when people are desperate, they go to any length to do anything, even to the extent of losing their own lives. So, you would have seen someone that will have to take for surgery because the whole thing got stuck in his stomach, in his system. He couldn't excrete on his own, even despite some initial medical interventions. The whole thing got stuck. And just imagine if one or two of those pellets had exploded in his tummy, what that would have led to. So it's definitely driven by greed and then desperation. Then you also have family values that quite a lot of home have lost at this point, and because the family, it's a microcosm of the macrocosm. That's a smaller unit of the smaller unit of the society itself. So you have whatever transpires at the family level also affecting the society, also happening in the larger society.
Mr. Famous, thank you so much. We will continue to have this conversation with you and the NDLEA to follow up on the work you're doing to get rid of some of these drugs that we find in our society. Femi Babafemi is a spokesperson of the National Drug Law Enforcement Agency, joining us virtually from Abuja. Thank you so much for coming on the program.
Always a pleasure. Thank you for having me.
All right, we'll take a very quick break and we'll get to focus on women. You know, it's Monday, women in business. We try to shine the light on these women who are doing big things in their small spaces. Join us again.